The story kicks off with our main character walking down a dark alley when some guy spits on his friend's shoe, who complains about how disgusting it is. He keeps walking through a dirty, noisy neighborhood, thinking about how badly he wants to find a job. Just then, he arrives in front of his home, a small rooftop apartment. For dinner, it's instant ramen once again. This is Bong Joon-hyuk, a 25-year-old who's out of a job. The reason he can't save money, even while working 3 jobs, is simple: he's drowning in debt. With no special skills and just a healthy body, he feels like there's no bright future waiting for him. As he was wallowing in his loser life, a blue screen pops up right in front of him with a message. Bong Joon-hyuk is completely stunned by the notification saying that he has awakened. He's so startled that he stumbles backward, spilling his entire dinner all over the floor. Still unable to believe what just happened, the young man wonders if he is truly awakened. Awakening is like a blessing, a chance to completely turn your life around, and it's rarer than winning the lottery. But there's a catch: to enjoy this good fortune, you first have to stay alive, because entering the tower is incredibly dangerous. Inside, you could be attacked by monsters, freeze, get burned, or even be taken out by poison. On top of all that, there are crushing traps, making him think he should have just stuck with his jobs. This is why he became his own safety instructor, constantly reminding himself of the tower's perils. One of his personal rules is to avoid confrontations at all costs, even if it means pretending to be on his phone. He also steers clear of dangerous places like construction sites, freely admitting he's a coward. But now that he's awakened, he questions if this is all real, or just a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. To find out for sure, our protagonist decides to test it, shouting for the status window to appear. And to his astonishment, a screen materializes, showing his name, affiliation level 1, and a summoner trait. He touches the blue screen, shocked that it's real, and starts wondering about his new summoning ability. Awakened individuals gain a special ability called a trait, which can be anything from swordsman to archer. Among the various classes are summoners, who can call forth familiars and golems to fight for them. Demonic beast can also be summoned, since it's an ability that draws from specific categories of beings. Bong Joon-hyuk grows curious about what kind of summoner he is and decides to test out his new skill. He thrusts his hand forward with all his might and yells for his summon to appear before him. Striking a slightly awkward pose, he calls out random summon, but nothing happens, leaving him feeling foolish. A question mark appears beside his head as he stands there, confused why his new ability fizzled. After a moment, it dawns on him that abilities don't work outside the tower. A player's skills are only effective inside the tower; outside, they're just regular people. The young man feels like a complete moron for forgetting such a basic fact about the awakened. He reinforces the thought that there is absolutely no way to activate a skill outside the tower. However, a blue screen flashes out of nowhere, announcing that his random summon has been activated. His eyes glow purple as he stands there, completely frozen by what just happened. Suddenly, a swirling purple summoning portal opens up in the middle of his tiny apartment. To his surprise, a person dressed in warrior's gear steps out from the portal of light. With his jaw on the floor, the young man can only wonder why his ability worked outside the tower. The summoned being salutes and confirms he is a person, leaving the protagonist even more bewildered. Bong Joon-hyuk is lost in thought about how he summoned a human while the man sniffs the air. The summoned warrior seems to catch a very familiar and specific scent in the small apartment. It was the ramen on the table, and the man asks for a bite, which Bong Joon-hyuk agrees to without thinking. Then the assassin starts devouring the noodles, and our hero thinks he's summoned a total freeloader. The man enthusiastically slurps down all the noodles at once, leaving the bowl practically empty. He complains that it's spicy, which shocks Joon-hyuk, since the flavor is mild and the guy is clearly a lightweight with spice. But the young man is still hung up on how the skill worked outside the tower, let alone summoning a human. To get a better handle on it, he pulls up the status window, which shows the rarity ranks for human and demi-human summons. From this, he realizes the system is basically a gacha game with different rarities for each summon. A moment later, a notification pops up, detailing the 3 principles of a summoned being. The first is to protect the summoner, the second is to obey orders, and the third is that protection always comes first. Bong Joon-hyuk really likes the sound of absolute obedience as the assassin finishes off the ramen broth. To learn more about the man, the catalog reveals he is John Kosak, a super rare assassin. He was his guild's greatest asset with a 99% success rate, but his downfall was, suddenly, a sharp headache hits the protagonist as he's flooded with a rush of information. His eyes begin to glow and he experiences a strange vision, as if he's peering into someone's past. He sees a man falling from a distorted portal, plummeting toward the ground at incredible speed. The figure continues to fall headfirst as a shadow on the ground braces for impact. The shadow was Kosak, who nimbly dodges the body as it crashes down right in front of him. The vision abruptly shifts to a snake-like creature emerging from the chaos. Then it shows the assassin fighting alone against numerous enemies in a dark alley. It becomes clear to the protagonist that he's witnessing Kosak's past, locked in an intense battle against multiple foes. In a flash, his vision changes to a red ribbon floating slowly through the air. The assassin then ties ribbons around the heads of his enemies, explaining his Mad Assassin nickname. With a smirk, the summoned man looks quite proud of the little gifts he's prepared. But his stellar career came to an end due to a single failure one night under a full moon. Kosak's mission was to infiltrate a mansion and take out a target who was sleeping soundly. He slips into the room and, without wasting a second, hurls a dagger with all his might toward the bed. However, his target was none other than the strongest swordsman in the entire empire. This becomes Kosak's final memory, as the swordsman sidesteps the attack and strikes him down in an instant. Back in the present, the assassin leans in close to the protagonist's face and asks what he's thinking about. Startled, the young man stumbles and falls to the floor as the man apologizes and awaits his orders. With his heart pounding, Ju-hik tries to calm himself, remembering the summon is bound to obey him. He takes a deep breath, trying to collect himself and think of a way to test the assassin's loyalty. For starters, he orders Kosak to wash the pan and clear the table, which the man does without question. The protagonist is impressed by his speed and the fact that he didn't complain one bit. He's stunned to see that the assassin really does everything he's told without a moment's hesitation. Kosak then reassures him, promising to obey any order that comes from his master, the summoner. To push this limit, Bong Ju-hik decides to give the man a somewhat bizarre command. He tells the assassin to act like a dog, and the man immediately stops cleaning the table. Our hero thinks he's gone too far, that such a powerful man would never accept this humiliation. But to his utter surprise, Kosak starts barking and acting like a happy, obedient little dog. With a thumbs up, he confirms the assassin is completely obedient and will do anything he commands. Suddenly, someone starts pounding on the door, startling both of them inside the apartment. The protagonist panics, remembering it's the day he has to pay the interest on his debt. He tells Kosak to get up quickly as the person outside continues to hammer on the door. Since banks wouldn't lend to him, he had borrowed 10 million won from a loan shark for an emergency. The money went to his father's surgery and his brother's tuition, but the interest has already climbed past 5 million. He knows it was a foolish choice, but he'd do it all over again to help his family in a bind. As the loan shark yells for him to open up, the young man calls over to Kosak with a plan. The assassin offers to bring him the man's head, but Ju-hik quickly shuts that down, thinking of the trouble it would cause. Instead, he tells Kosak to hide in the bathroom and not make a sound. The man asks if he's allowed to breathe. The moment he opens the door, the young man is grabbed by his collar by a blonde man with a facial scar. The loan shark says he was getting worried since the payment hadn't come through, and Ju-hik apologizes for forgetting. With a terrifying grin, the man suggests he could sell an organ to solve his problems for good. His goons chime in with the idea of using his younger brother, since his organs would fetch a higher price. The protagonist's expression darkens instantly, his face filled with rage at what he just heard. The loan shark notices the shift in mood and asks if he's looking for a fight. But Bong Ju-hik quickly masks his anger with a smile, saying he would never dare do such a thing. The man warns him to be careful and leaves, slamming the door hard, leaving our hero trembling with relief. After they're gone, he calls for Kosak, who emerges from the bathroom and gets praise for being so quiet. Worn out from the chaotic day, he starts to wonder if he should actually climb the tower to pay off his debt. He thinks the money would be great, but a coward like could never actually climb the tower. Unsure of what to do, the young man offers to send the assassin back to his own world. But the summoned warrior raises a hand and with a smile asks if he can watch a little television. The protagonist finds this odd but agrees, and Kosak thanks him, saying he's going to watch some dramas. Later that night, the young man is asleep while the assassin is engrossed in a TV drama. Kosak thinks that having company isn't so bad and with a smile vows to get his revenge. Our hero sleeps soundly, feeling that having someone around is actually a bit comforting. After working himself to the bone all alone for so long, the summoned man finds this new sensation quite pleasant. The next morning, his phone alarm rings at 8 o'clock, and the protagonist shuts it off. As he wakes up, he notices Kosak is gone and figures the summoning period must have ended. He recalls the duration was 6 hours just as a blue screen confirms the summon has vanished. So he gets up, deciding to put it all behind him and head to work as the TV starts a news report. The report is about an incident at a loan shark company in Seoul called Smile Cash. The young man is shocked to hear the company's name. It's the same one from yesterday's visitors. His toothbrush clatters to the floor as the reporter states that the 3 victims were found without their upper torsos. What makes it even more bizarre is that the separated parts were found decorated with red ribbons. He instantly remembers the vision of Kosak's past, where he did the exact same thing. The protagonist connects the dots and realizes the person responsible for this was John Kosak. He completely freaks out, screaming that he didn't summon a companion, he summoned a crazy psycho killer. The newspaper headline displays the bizarre Smile Cash case, showing the crime scene. Images of the scene flash through his mind, a red-stained hand in the loan shark's remains. In total despair, the protagonist keeps muttering to himself that he is so screwed. At his part-time job, a customer approaches while he's still reeling from what happened. He then has a horrifying hallucination, picturing the customer holding the loan shark's torso like a gift. The vision is so vivid his eye twitches in fear, and he's frozen to the spot. In an instant, the store morphs into a horror scene, with body parts lining the shelves. The shock sends him screaming and falling backward, knocking over a rack of products on the counter. The girl asks if he's alright, and only then does he snap back to reality, realizing his mind was playing tricks on him. Mortified, he apologizes profusely and says he'll ring up her purchase right away. But once outside, the young man feels like utter trash and decides he can't work, so he takes the day off. Walking alone in the snow, he starts thinking about the fate of the people who had threatened him. He can't help but wonder if this is all his fault for summoning such a dangerous assassin. Back in his tiny apartment, he continues to dwell on the day's horrifying events. He opens the catalog and confirms that John Cusack was indeed a mad, super rare assassin. Sitting on the floor, he admits that even though he's the summoner, he's still a little afraid of the assassin. Despite his fear, he decides to use the designated summon to bring Cusack back. But just before the summon activates, a system window pops up with a request. The system asks him to provide a satisfaction rating for John Cusack before his next summon. Now he understands why there was a review section in the assassin's profile. Furious, he considers giving him 1 star, since the man dragged him into huge trouble without his permission. But he feels he can't be that heartless and ends up giving a slightly better score. With that, a system screen confirms that John Cusack's satisfaction rating has been set to 3 stars. He thinks of his mother and how upset she'd get over bad grades, which is why he never gives out 1-star reviews. Immediately after, the system notifies him that John Cusack has been successfully summoned. The assassin appears with a grin, saluting and saying it's a pleasure to see him again. He thanks him for the 3 stars, and the protagonist finds it bizarre that someone so seemingly innocent could have dealt with 3 people. Mustering his courage, Hook asks him directly if he was the one who handled the men who visited yesterday. Cusack cheerfully confirms that he took care of them last night, just before his summoning time ran out. Hearing this, the protagonist's heart starts hammering in his chest, and a wave of sickness washes over him. He tries to calm down, reminding himself that, at the very least, the assassin won't harm him. The young man then asks how he found their office, and the man explains he used a tracking mark. Confused about this new ability, He questions why he went to such great lengths to find them. His summoned companion says they were a threat, but the protagonist shoots back that he never gave that order. Cusack then explains it was because of the 3rd clause in the 3 principles of a summoned being. The rule states that the summoner's protection takes precedence over absolute obedience if the 2 are in conflict. To test this, he asks if Cusack would disobey in order to get rid of him, and the assassin says no. The protagonist argues that there was no real threat, and that Cusack acted on his own judgment. But the man insists that from his perspective they were a future danger, prompting the young man to call him a psycho. Looking a bit sheepish, he apologizes, and the assassin says it's quite alright, as he's heard that many times before. Hook understands the logic, but now sees that having a partner like this could be extremely dangerous. He imagines a scenario where he's walking down the street with John Cusack and accidentally bumps into some random guy. The man might threaten him, saying he'll tear his eyes out, but it would just be an empty threat. However, in Cusack's interpretation, that person would later turn up missing their upper half, complete with a red ribbon. The protagonist is horrified by this thought and starts nervously chewing on his fingernail. Seeing this, the assassin kneels and accepts full responsibility, and He asks why he's doing that. The young man tries to explain that he can't just go around doing things like that, because it will cause major problems. His summoned companion then salutes and promises to use his best judgment from now on, which isn't very reassuring. Bong Joon-wook feels he's being evasive, so he just dismisses him for the time being. But before he goes, Cusack asks if the summoner has ever considered climbing the tower. The protagonist is taken aback by the question and stares at the assassin, unsure how to respond. He clenches his fist, acknowledging that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could change everything. But the truth is, the young man is terrified, the tower is dangerous, and he might not make it out alive. So, he changes the subject, asking if Cusack has had other summoners before him. The assassin confirms that he has, adding that they were all very powerful and exceptionally brave. Hearing this, our hero feels a pang of shame and admits he doesn't have the guts to risk his life to save the world. He turns away and calls himself a pathetic coward, expecting a reply from Cusack. But the man says with a smile that he is the greatest summoner of all time, leaving the young man speechless. The assassin explains that a summoner's most important virtue is putting safety first. To him, bravery is a poison because if the summoner falls, the summon can never be called out again. With a confident grin, he tells the protagonist not to worry, he'll handle all the dirty work. The assassin's words leave our hero stunned, not knowing what to make of any of it. The next morning, he wakes up exhausted after spending the entire night agonizing over whether to climb the tower. He feels like a nobody and decides he should just be grateful his debt is gone and try to move on. The young man resolves to find a normal, safe job and believes everything will work out if he just puts in the effort. But suddenly, the phone in the back pocket of his sweatsuit starts ringing, and he answers. It was his father, calling to tell him he needs to be transferred to a bigger hospital. On top of that, his mother just got laid off, and he's reeling from the double dose of bad news. He tries not to worry his dad and hangs up, feeling completely crushed. Without a second thought, he grabs his phone and makes a life-altering decision. Dressed in safety gear and holding a baseball bat, he braces himself for what's to come. He decides he will enter the tower just to take a look. If it's too dangerous, he'll simply leave. But before summoning, he thinks to himself that he doesn't have to be stuck with that psycho Cusack forever. It occurs to him to try summoning someone else, hoping he might get lucky with a super rare legendary. However, the system informs him that the random summon is on a 1-month cooldown. In the end, he has no choice but to summon John Cusack, who appears thanking him for the 5-star rating. Flustered, Ju-hook welcomes him back, praying the assassin doesn't know he just tried to replace him. With all the courage he can muster, he announces his decision to enter the tower, and Cusack calls him brave. The summoned warrior tosses aside the young man's bat and shield, offering to be his personal guide in the tower. He guarantees a safe and comfortable entry, assuring him that he won't have to lift a finger. With everything set, the system asks if he wishes to enter Korea's Black Tower on the first floor. Cusack flashes an OK sign and, with a grin, motions for the young man to head into the tower with him. The system announces their entry to the first floor as a digital portal sucks them both in. They rocket through a wild tunnel of data and binary code at incredible speed. The ride is so intense that the protagonist's face is a mask of pure panic and despair. Carried by Cusack, the young man screams as they fly through the tower's entrance portal. They finally arrive, materializing in front of a hexagonal barrier that marks the safe zone. Looking around, Ju-hook realizes the first floor of the tower is nothing but a vast desert. The abrupt change in scenery makes him feel extremely nauseous. He ends up vomiting on the ground, and Cusack pats his back, telling him he'll get used to it soon enough. The assassin then announces he's leaving the safe zone and tells his summoner to follow. Suddenly, system screens flash to life, declaring that his physical and combat abilities are now active. He feels a surge of power in his hands and understands what it feels like to be a player, feeling strong even at level 1. The first floor mission appears to defeat 5 tough, skin-fat larvae within 2 hours. Just then, Cusack points toward the horizon, showing their targets crawling across the desert sands. The young man recalls from his research that they're weak but have incredibly tough hides. He knows it takes other players 30 minutes just to take down one of these creatures. But now that he's a player too, he clenches his fist, filled with a newfound determination to fight. He walks toward a larva, announcing he's going to try taking one on by himself as a test. With that, our hero stands face to face with the creature, bracing for his first ever combat. But he remembers a crucial detail and turns to ask Cusack if he can borrow a weapon. Before he can even get a weapon, the giant larva lunges at him, ready to strike. The monster opens its gooey maw, which glows with a strange, sickly green light. With no time to react, the protagonist freezes, completely paralyzed with fear by the incoming attack. His face flushed with embarrassment, he scraps his plan and yells for Mr. Cusack's help. The assassin gives a thumbs up and, with a smile, says that was a very wise decision. Without wasting a moment, the summoned man dashes forward at blinding speed to attack the creature. With a single strike, he obliterates the larva, which explodes in a shower of green goo. Cusack tells his summoner to stand back as he moves to deal with the remaining monsters alone. He summons his blue energy blades, preparing for a massive area of effect attack. In one swift motion, the assassin unleashes a volley energy projectiles toward the larvae. The blades encircle the creatures before he activates his explosion ability, wiping them all out at once. All the larvae disintegrate into blue particles, leaving the man standing calmly in the aftermath. Bong Joon-hook's jaw hangs open, completely blown away by his companion's power. He can't believe the assassin dealt with them so quickly as their remains fade into nothing. The system screen announces the mission is complete, granting him a level up and a platinum emblem. The young man is ecstatic, thinking this was way too easy and he'll be rich in no time. But what poor Bong Joon-hook didn't know was that a woman was seeing that very same notification. Elsewhere, another young woman at a gym also sees the alert appear before her. Even a guy at a nightclub stops what he's doing to stare at the system screen. At that exact moment, the same notice appears for every single player in South Korea. The system screen announces that the second floor has been unlocked and they are sent back home. Still a bit queasy, Joon-hook checks his phone and is shocked to see the whole thing took only 5 minutes. With a smile, the assassin congratulates his summoner on a job well done. The young man insists he didn't do anything, but Cusack replies that doing nothing was exactly the right move. On his table, he finds the mission rewards, a magic crystal and the platinum emblem. He picks up the sparkling crystal, mesmerized, as it's the first time he's ever seen a real one. These crystals are a vital resource for many industries and are worth around 50,000 won each. In the 20 years since the towers appeared, even ordinary people have learned the basics about them. But our hero has never heard of a platinum emblem and wonders what it could be. Thrilled about making money so easily, he celebrates while Cusack settles in to watch his dramas. To celebrate their success, the protagonist invites the assassin to share a fancy meal. The summoned man approaches the food and begins sniffing it all with a wary expression. He asks if it's spicy, but the young man assures him he ordered mild food, knowing his weakness. The two start eating and the assassin thanks him for his kindness, but Joon-hook has a question. He asks about Cusack's formal way of speaking, and his companion explains it's a habit from his previous master. With his mouth full, the protagonist compares it to being influenced by an ex-boyfriend. The assassin offers to change his speech pattern, but the young man finds it amusing, and they share a laugh. Watching his companion eat happily, Joon-hook is now certain that this whole venture isn't so dangerous after all. Looking at his discarded safety gear, he thinks that maybe, just maybe, this is all possible. With a determined gaze and the tower's image in the background, he concludes, "I can do this." The next morning, the sun rises over the city, its light streaming into the small apartment. With a fresh perspective, the protagonist creates a new daily routine for himself fit for a real man. He quits one of his jobs to focus on conquering the tower alongside John Cusack. Upon being summoned, the assassin salutes, and the young man tells him he'd give 10 stars if he could. After all this excitement, Bongju, Hook starts to wonder just how important the rating actually is. Cusack explains that a better rating grants him more benefits, like increased duration and enhancements. With that cleared up, the system screen announces their entry into the second floor of the Black Tower. They're teleported to the new floor, and the protagonist wobbles a bit on arrival. The mission this time is to defeat 10 cunning, fat larvae in under 2 hours to proceed. Unlike the first floor, these new creatures dart across the ground at high speed. Our hero is surprised by how fast they are and realizes the challenge is ramped up considerably. Not knowing what to do, he asks for help, but the assassin tells him he won't even have time to. With a confident smile, the summoned warrior holds up 3 fingers, promising to clear the floor in 3 minutes. He readies himself for battle, vowing to finish quickly so he can escort his master back home. Fired up by the idea, the protagonist cheers him on, suggesting they get chicken and beer afterwards. Cusack thanks him for the motivation and powers up, ready to wipe out the monsters in record time. In the blink of an eye, all the larvae are shredded by the assassin's energy blades. The young man can only think how insane this is as the system announces the mission's success and another level up. And once again, he achieves the highest rank, earning another platinum emblem as a reward. He thinks it was so fast that he could probably do this every day before his morning part-time job. On the 3rd floor, the mission was against ice larvae, and our hero strikes a cool pose upon arrival. In a flash, the mission is over, and he levels up again, gaining another 300 crystals. As a reward for the perfect score, he receives yet another platinum emblem for his collection. The 4th floor is cleared just as easily, leaving the assassin looking extremely proud of himself. On the 5th floor, the duo celebrates another victory with a high 5 in the middle of the stage. Following this, a system notification pops up, informing him he's collected 5 platinum emblems. Because of this achievement, he's been granted a special privilege, which completely surprises him. The privilege is an enhancement to his trait. The number of simultaneous summons has increased to 2. His status window updates to show the change. He's now level 6 with 2 summon slots available. The young man is floored. He can now bring one more person, and Cusack is already overwhelmingly strong on his own. He's amazed by the incredible rewards he's getting for acing these early floors. Even if tougher battles are ahead, he knows this will make everything much safer. The cooldown for his random summon is still 20 days, so he has to be smart about this. He imagines the 3 of them breezing through the floors and gets excited for the 6th floor tomorrow. The scene shifts to a massive skyscraper, the headquarters of the Korean Awakened Management Agency. Inside an office, the mood is tense as 3 people wait in dead silence. An older man wonders aloud when the next alert will appear, speculating if it will be morning or night. A woman walks up to him and asks if he's thinking about the notification again. He jumps, complaining that she's always sneaking up on him, but she just says she was curious. She then reports that a new alert just came in. The 6th floor has been cleared with a perfect score. The agency's leader remarks that the notifications are always for perfect scores, certain it's the work of a single person. He believes they're dealing with someone of absurd talent, and if this pace continues, it will become a problem. He slams his fist on the desk to emphasize the gravity of the situation to the other 2. The agency director points out that until now the highest record was in a rank. Now they know a higher tier exists. Player naturalization by other countries is common, and even kidnappings occur, so they must act fast. With a grim expression, the director orders them to find this player immediately before they lose him. 2 days later, sunlight streams into the protagonist's small apartment on a peaceful morning. Cusack is at the sink washing dishes with pink gloves as Hook confirms that today they'll tackle the 8th floor. They've been clearing 1 floor per day without a hitch. Up to the 10th floor is considered the beginner's phase. The scene changes to a foggy forest, where the 2 tread carefully through swampy ground. The 8th floor mission is to defeat 10 red-spined warrior frogs which materialize in front of them. One of the creatures lashes out with its gooey purple tongue, aiming straight for the protagonist. But a blue blade flashes out, slicing the frog's tongue in half before it can connect. Wielding his twin blades, the assassin charges in, making short work of all the frogs with a masterful display. And once again, they complete the mission with a top score, earning another platinum emblem. Back home, the young man feels useless, but Cusack reassures him that simply entering the tower is hard work enough. He thanks his companion for the help and reminds himself not to get complacent, as the coming floors will be tougher. As a reward, he offers the assassin some money to go have fun, but warns him not to cause any trouble. The summoned warrior declines the offer, stating he cannot leave his master's side, and will just watch TV instead. So, the protagonist suggests ordering chicken, and Cusack's face lights up at the thought of food. While waiting for the chicken, Heek decides to check out the rewards he's accumulated. Besides the crystals, he's also received a healing potion that can only be used inside the tower. He's already saved up nearly 2 million won worth of crystals and realizes he needs to start selling them. On the 10th day, he stretches, feeling both tired and excited to finally clear the 10th floor. The day before, he had breezed through the 9th floor, all thanks to his companion's help. With a celebratory toast, the protagonist marks his success, having completely forgotten that the assassin is a psycho. He summons Cossack and the system notifies him that due to his perfect scores, the summon duration has increased by an hour. The summoned man expresses his gratitude by making a heart with his hands, promising he can be counted on. The system screen announces their entry into the 10th floor and the activation of his abilities. On this floor, Ju-Hik feels the tower's power adjustment far more intensely than before. He feels an immense strength surging through his body and a mysterious magical energy gathering in his core. A funny illustration depicts him as an untamable wild horse with glowing red eyes. He tells Cossack he's going to help in this battle, but the assassin objects, worried he'll get hurt. The young man insists, declaring he's a wild stallion, but Cossack says the compliment is appreciated but unnecessary. Now wearing a horse mask, the protagonist readies himself to fight alongside his companion. Suddenly, a giant yellow eye appears before him, observing his every move. The monster of the 10th floor is a colossal praying mantis, which towers over them menacingly. The young man is terrified, wondering how any other player managed to defeat something like this. He immediately backtracks on his plan to fight, declaring it would be unsporting for two humans to gang up on a single insect. The mantis glares at them with its enormous eyes, preparing for the impending battle. The protagonist hides and, like a battlefield general, orders Cossack to attack the giant monster. The assassin charges forward, weaving between the mantis' scythe like arms with incredible agility. With a focused gaze, his eyes glowing blue, he prepares to deliver the final blow. He leaps into the air, creating a flurry of energy blades that slice the giant monster into countless pieces. The system screen flashes with another completed mission, another level up, and another platinum emblem. With the mission done, the assassin sheathes his daggers and gets ready to leave the tower. The system announces that the 11th floor is now unlocked as the two are sent back. With his latest reward, he now has 5.5 kilograms of magic crystals stored in his inventory. In addition, he now possesses 10 platinum emblems, which come with special privileges. The system screen notifies him that he has earned a new privilege for accumulating 10 emblems. With an eager smile, he wonders what new advantage the system has granted him. The privilege is the ability to copy one of his summoned skills, and a list appears. Not quite getting it, he points at the screen and asks his companion what this is. Cossack tells him he should choose Shadow Step, leaving the protagonist confused. The assassin explains it's useful for escaping, ensuring that even if something goes wrong, he can get away safely. Ju-Hik takes offense, wondering if he looks like the type of person who runs away and leaves others behind. The system screen confirms the acquisition and registration of the Shadow Step skill. With a serious expression, the protagonist listens as Cossack lectures him on the importance of agility in combat. Curious, he decides to test his new ability outside the tower and activates Shadow Step. But nothing happens and he stumbles, falling to the floor in a clumsy, frustrated heap. On the 11th day, the protagonist makes a call to the Awakened Management Agency. With a trembling voice, he introduces himself, explaining that he's calling because he has awakened. The operator congratulates him and asks for his address to dispatch a government support team. He feels drained, but he knows this was the single bravest decision he's ever made in his life. At the agency, a woman walks towards a black car where her partner is waiting. They discuss yesterday's awakened individual and their continued bad luck in finding the record holder. The woman announces they have another request today, and their team leader decides to tag along. He's determined to find the mystery player and recruit them for the elite national team. Meanwhile, our protagonist is busy cleaning his apartment in preparation for the agency's visit. A sudden knock on the door makes him jump, realizing with a jolt of nerves that they're already here. He opens the door and invites the two agents in, apologizing for the small size of his place. The leader introduces himself, and the young man gets flustered when he notices a woman is part of the team. The woman steps toward him, her serious gaze making his heart pound in his chest. She leans in very close to his face and asks, "Are you the one with the S++ record?" The question startles him so much that he yelps and jumps back, completely scared and embarrassed. His mind races, wondering how she could have possibly found out and if there's a way to track awakenings. To avoid getting into trouble, he decides to play dumb for now and act as natural as possible. With a strange smile, he feigns ignorance, saying he's not the person she's talking about. But the woman immediately spots the classic telltale signs of a lie and eyes him with suspicion. Her leader smacks her on the back of the head, reprimanding her for being so direct in her investigation. The woman apologizes, and Ju-Hik says it's fine, realizing with relief that she was just bluffing. A cute mascot named Tabby appears on a device to explain more about the world of the tower. The Black Tower emerged worldwide 20 years ago, taller than any man-made structure. Armies and scientists tried to approach it, but an invisible barrier repelled any physical contact. The answer to the tower's mystery came with the appearance of players who were able to enter it. Inside, they can use powerful abilities, and the rewards they bring back bolster the global economy. If a tower isn't climbed for 6 months, a countdown begins, leading to its eventual collapse. When it finally falls, the tower takes everything around it with it, which is how the city of Mumbai, India vanished. Each country has between 1 and 3 towers. Fortunately, South Korea only has 1. The conquest of the Korean tower is progressing well, ranking second in the world behind the USA. Players are society's heroes, exploring the tower like modern-day pioneers. The mascot then invites the newly awakened to register as an official player and become one of these heroes. The team leader switches off the video and announces he's now going to ask some verification questions. He asks if the young man is truly awakened, and Ju-hook confirms it by showing them the crystals he's collected. When they learn he's on the 10th floor, both agents tense up, noting the striking coincidence. The female agent stares at him with suspicion, wondering if he really could be the player they're looking for. She asks him about the global announcements, trying to gauge his reaction to the question. He tries to act casual, saying he's heard about them but that it's not him, followed by a forced laugh. His fake smile and twitching eye only make him seem more suspicious to the two agents. The leader decides to move on, explaining the contract options and the two paths a player can take. The general team operates on a freelance basis, while the elite team works directly for the agency. Elite players receive extensive support and protection but are obligated to climb to the highest floors. The leader starts to mention the salary, and the protagonist begins to worry about where this is heading. He imagines reporters swarming him, digging into his personal life and exposing his weaknesses. Being in the spotlight is the last thing he wants, making the elite team completely out of the question. The agent begins to explain the body cam requirement, but the young man cuts him off. With a surprised expression, the team leader listens as the young man states he will not be signing up for the elite team. The protagonist explains he's perfectly happy with the general team, honestly admitting he has no special talent. With an awkward smile, he confesses that he's scared and would prefer to stop on a reasonably safe floor. The leader tries to persuade him to reconsider, but Ju-hook insists his decision is final. The female agent sighs, realizing this is another failed attempt to find their mystery player. She thinks to herself that a coward like him would never qualify for the elite team anyway. With a stern look, she adds that the team's most important virtue is the will to keep climbing. The leader finally relents, saying he'll respect the player's decision, and the young man thanks him with relief. As a final step, he asks the young man to enter the tower one more time to officially verify his awakening. Ju-hook agrees, figuring the agent is still trying to confirm if he's the record holder. He warns them it will take him nearly 2 hours, but the leader says that's no problem, it's their job to wait. The female agent tells him not to rush, adding that they'll wait as long as it takes. With everything settled, the protagonist prepares to enter the tower right in front of the two agents. He turns back, offering them TV and drinks while they wait, and says he'll be back soon. The two agents watch the portal vanish, and the leader confirms that the young man has definitely awakened. The woman remarks that he seems extremely timid, noting his withdrawn way of speaking and acting. She bets he'll give up on the 11th floor, and her partner asks why she thinks that. She explains that she's cleared it before. The floor tests a player's fear with hordes of disgusting centipedes. To pass, one must defeat 100 of them, and she doubts someone so skittish could manage it. With her arms crossed, she's confident he'll retreat to the safe zone and abandon the mission. The leader says he'll call the director, remarking that her hunches are usually spot on. Inside the tower, the protagonist summons his companion, who materializes from a portal before him. Cossack salutes, thanking his master for calling him for another mission in the tower. The 11th floor mission is to defeat 100 long-tailed centipedes within 3 hours. The young man is terrified at the thought of fighting 100 centipedes, but Cossack offers to handle it. But the protagonist stops him, instructing him to hunt as slowly as possible to avoid setting another record. Cossack understands his master's intent and agrees to the plan to throw the agents off his trail. With a sly grin, the young man plans to slip past their suspicion with a messy, unimpressive record. The assassin begins fighting the centipedes at a much slower pace, just as they discussed. Ju-hook complains he's still too fast and tells him to slow down even more during the battle. At a much more leisurely pace, the hunt continues, and the protagonist is satisfied with the speed. He hops onto his centipede's back to get a better view of the fight, but something unexpected happens. Suddenly, his body seizes up and he panics as he finds himself completely unable to move. Surrounded by the creatures, he tries to use a skill to escape, but his body refuses to respond. Seeing his master in peril, the assassin loses his composure and unleashes his full power to save him. He rockets toward the protagonist at an absurd speed, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Enraged, the summoned warrior curses the filthy centipedes for daring to attack his master. In an instant, all the creatures are vaporized by the assassin's swirling blue energy blades. The protagonist is freed and tries to tell him to slow down, but it's already too late. He screams that it's an order, but Cossack refuses to obey, declaring that his master's life comes first. Desperate, the young man threatens the assassin with something that could change everything between them. The system announces that he has achieved the top score on the 11th floor, earning another platinum emblem. Frustrated by the outcome, the protagonist is ejected from the tower along with his companion. He reappears in his apartment, feeling defeated and unsure what to do about this mess. Outside, the two agents are still waiting, and the woman comments that he must be giving up right about now. But suddenly a system screen flashes into existence before them with an unexpected notification. The alert declares that the 11th floor has been cleared with a perfect score, leaving them both in shock. A moment later, the protagonist materializes in the middle of the room, shrouded in a brilliant blue light. The two agents are speechless. The woman confirms the alert appeared almost simultaneously with his return. With his identity exposed, the young man stands in the middle of the room, radiating an aura of power. He sighs, and with a shadow casting over his face, he says, "I didn't want to have to do this." His eyes glowing red, he summons Kosak and declares that the two of them will have to be silenced. The assassin appears behind the protagonist, blades drawn and ready to strike the two agents. The agency duo stands frozen, completely stunned by the young man's sudden, menacing threat. With a yell, the protagonist orders Kosak to tie up the two agents immediately. But in his frantic imagination, the assassin misinterprets the command and deals with them permanently in the blink of an eye. The young man screams in terror at the vision of the agent's remains decorated with red ribbons. He panics, shouting that he never ordered that and that it was all a big misunderstanding. In his delusion, the agent's body parts call out to him, and he apologizes over and over. Back in reality, the two agents are just staring at him, utterly confused by his bizarre reaction. They ask if he's okay, and only then does he realize it was all in his head. The team leader repeats his offer, stating that a talent like his is crucial for the elite team. With a nervous smile, our hero tries to play it all off as a big misunderstanding and a wild coincidence. The agent presses him, but the young man continues to deny everything, stuttering more than usual. Realizing he's getting nowhere, the leader repairs the contract to make the young man's awakening official. But as he takes the document, the protagonist is shocked to see it's an elite contract. The leader explains it's for a unique, special case, ultra elite contract drafted just for him. The document outlines an elite player contract with special management status. It includes an annual salary of 12 billion won, along with real estate security and VVIP treatment. On top of all that, he would also be granted immunity privileges, putting him nearly above the law. Currently, only Korea's #1 player enjoys this benefit, making them akin to nobility. But even with the most generous benefits the nation could offer, the young man turns it down flat. He shouts that if it's not a general contract, he'd rather not be a player at all. The two agents are taken aback as the young man explains he hates receiving attention and being the center of it. He explains that he feels overwhelmed and stressed out whenever people focus on him too much. Even a simple compliment at a restaurant makes him deeply uncomfortable and weighs on his mind. The two agents realize he's an extreme introvert, and Juka adds that the future is just too uncertain. The leader decides to back down for now, agreeing to proceed with the standard general contract. He admits the decision is frustrating but understands that an elite contract comes with immense responsibilities. Once on the elite team, there's no backing out. It was created for the sole purpose of conquering the upper floors. The protagonist refuses to carry that burden, saying he's fine with living a more comfortable life than he had before. Back at the agency, the team leader reports to the director about the visit. The director questions him about the report, which described the player as timid and unmotivated. The leader confirms this, leaving the director baffled as to how someone like that could achieve such a record. He describes the young man as a rare breed of shy, thoughtfully pondering the situation. The director asks if there's any chance it could be someone else, but the female agent says it's impossible. Angrily, he declares the talent is too exceptional to waste and orders them to bring him into the elite team. The leader agrees to the order but privately wonders how he'll ever convince someone so stubborn. In his room, the young man fumes, shouting that there's no way he's joining the elite team. He threatens to have Kosak unsummoned if he doesn't obey him, and the assassin fearfully agrees. The system screen announces their entry in the 12th floor with a mission to defeat 20 weasels. In a frozen landscape, the protagonist tells his companion to go slow, and Kosak swears his loyalty. The young man feels he can trust him this time, thinking the agency will finally lose interest. But he wasn't prepared for the biting cold and begins to shiver violently from the low temperature. He complains that it's much colder than he expected, and the assassin notices his master is looking pale. Worried, the summoned warrior asks if he's alright and promises to finish things quickly to get him somewhere warm. The young man pleads with him to go slow, but his companion ignores him, charging into battle at full speed. Kosak firmly believes a common cold is an incurable disease, and that his summoner's life is in mortal danger.